guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the first time if you're new. I'm Millie May and today I'm going to do an honest review of NCS. Today is Saturday and I did the last day of the last phase yesterday. So it's all really recent for me. And if you didn't know, NCS is the National Citizen Service. It's a scheme run by the government to make young people, you can only be 16 or 17, and you can only do it once, to try and make young people into more active citizens in society when they're older. And so I'm just going to talk about each phase, because there are 3 phases to it, and what the phase kind of entailed and how it was to do it, and all of those things. So there's going to be a couple different parts to this, sorry the camera keeps shaking, so there are going to be a couple different parts to this video, and in the description below I'll put the timestamps of when each phase starts. So I'm going to talk about like phase 1 and how it got started and the adventure phase, but they call it personal challenge. Then phase 2, which is the team challenge, where you stay in halls. I don't remember what they called it on the website, but they called it something different on the website. Then I'll talk about phase 3, which is the social action phase. And then finally I'll do like an overview of it all, like is NCS worth doing, all that kind of stuff. So if you've already, so this might be good if you've already signed up, if you're thinking about signing up, all of that good stuff. So let's get into it. First of all, the advertising campaign for NCS, it's all lies. Like, we had 2 people from NCS come into our school. They showed us like a presentation, they showed us like quotes from different people that did it, like videos, all of this stuff. None of that stuff happened on the real thing. Like I can't even think what the specifics were, because it was like 3 weeks ago when I started and I found out it was all lies. But so many of the things they say that you'll do, the kind of vibe to it all, just like all of it, is just not true, which is really annoying, because I probably still would have done it if they'd been honest with me. I just would have been prepared to do what it actually was rather than what they'd told me it was going to be, you know? Like, yeah, so that was really annoying, and a lot of it wasn't as good as they said it would be, or we didn't do the kind of activities they said we'd do. We did cheaper, less interesting ones, and so that's kind of a theme throughout. Because it's so cheap and because it is government run, everything is just a little bit or a lot cheap, and that's fine because it is ridiculously cheap for what you're getting from them. So I guess that is fair, and yeah, of course they're not going to be negative in their marketing, but like, they don't have to flat out lie to you, kind of thing. That's my kind of feeling. But anyway, you start off when you arrive, and you won't actually leave for like 3 hours, because you will sit there and play awful games. Well, they weren't awful games actually, they were okay. I just got there expecting to leave straight away, because they said, if you are late, we will leave you behind. If you aren't there at 9 o'clock, because that's when the coach leaves at 9:30, we'll register you at 9. If you're not here at 9 to be registered, and if you're not here at 9:30 when the coach leaves, we will leave you behind. We didn't leave until like 1, half 1. Like, so it didn't matter if we were late. Like, I left stuff at home and I could have gone back for it, or my mum could have come and given it to me. It was ridiculous. And so there's a lot of waiting around, and you meet your team. And I had a really great team. I was in Team Amike, so when you start, that might mean something to you. And our team was just the best all around. For the entire NCS experience, our team was the best. So Team Amike. There were 12 of us, and then our mentor, I don't know if I'm allowed to say names here, so I won't, but our mentor was amazing. He was blessed. Like, if we had a rubbish mentor, the experience would have been awful. Like, I probably would have quit, and I never quit things. Like, I never quit, but I probably would have quit. So, and I haven't even started talking about the first phase. It's been like 4 minutes. Sorry. Anyway, the first phase, you're meant to do like all these outward bound activities, yeah? No. It was a 2-hour coach journey, but somehow the coach driver got lost, and it ended up being 5 hours. And that's not really anyone's fault. It's just something that happened. So we got there, and we were one of the 5% of groups that stayed in a tent. So it was between 10 and 12 people to a tent. And they were these massive tents, like with poles and the sheets, and then these beds. They were prison beds. My friend described them as prison beds, and I can't think of a better way to describe them, because it was just like a bit of plastic, and then on a frame there were like 3 bunk beds on each side, and then in the metal frame, then you had a sleeping bag, and you had a sleeping bag liner, and that was the only thing that was clean. The sleeping bag wasn't actually cleaned out, but we didn't find that out until the end when we gave in all our stuff. And the tent wasn't nailed down. Like, it was attached to the poles and stuff, but it wasn't nailed into the ground. So we killed like 14 spiders each, like the big ones, like the big wander around, like F-off spiders, those spiders. So that was interesting. And in the single girls' cubicle toilet that was on site, there were 14 spiders living in there. 14 of the big ones, like the big ones with the long legs. They're not daddy long legs. Like, I think my friend said they're called harvester spiders, but I don't know what that means, so maybe you do. And they don't leave you alone. Like, you know how normally like, spiders would just stay there and like you can just like watch them and they won't move? These ones would move. These ones would come at you. So I have a thing with spiders. I was just like, no, that's not happening. So the other alternative, where the other 6 toilets and the 6 showers were, was at the bottom of a hill. And when I say this hill was massive, I'm not exaggerating. Like, it was ridiculously steep. All of the people, even the people that like did sport, because I do sport, even the people that did sport would say you would be really tired, you'd go down, you'd have your shower, then you come back up, and then you'd be like all sweaty and tired again by the time you're back to the top, so there was like no point. It was so irritating, and like, so we had to limit how many times we went up and down this hill. That's not a thing that's going to be for everyone. I just wanted to rant a little bit about that and how much I did not enjoy that. So, we were there for 5 days. We only did activities on the middle 3 days, because the first day we arrived, 5th day we left, and we didn't really do anything else on those days. So, first day we went on a 10-mile hike. Second day we did, for the first half we did team building exercises, like around the forest, so you'd have to trek to each one, and you could pick which ones you did. And then in the afternoon we did bushcraft, which meant that we made our own dinner out in the forest under this piece of tarp that was like really small and kept falling down because it was raining, and obviously rain, meat, campfire, not really going to work. And that meal we made actually was the best meal that we ate there, because the food was really bad. Like, it was really bad. Like, the first night it was pasta. They managed to mess up pasta really badly, and the food was on an upward gradient. Like, it did improve as we were there. It just wasn't very good. And yeah, so we did bushcraft, and then on the third day, which was the best day, we did abseiling in the morning and then climbing in the afternoon. Climbing was actually the best. It was so much fun. And yeah, so the best activity by far was the climbing and abseiling. The hiking felt like something they'd thrown in because they didn't have enough money, and the others were just meh. Though we did have, it wasn't not fun, it was just a bit eh. Oh, by the way, bring lots of your own food. Make sure it's like sealed so that you don't like attract insects if you do happen to be unlucky and staying in a tent rather than dorms, because other groups had dorms on different waves. Bring your own food, like as much as you can. Stuff that are non-perishables, so stuff that won't go off. You won't regret it. Okay, and then at the end of each day, we had an evening session, like within our whole team with our mentor, and then we had a wave session, which was with the whole wave. All 6 teams together is called a wave. So the evening sessions, we like came up with a team charter, and we talked about TRUE, the acronym that was extremely vital to the whole NCS experience. TRUE stands for, and if you're actually going to do NCS, maybe like skip ahead a minute of this video, because like you're going to have this drilled into your skull. TRUE stands for trust, responsibility, understanding, and empathy. So it's important to cultivate these traits in yourself, and if you do and your mentor notices this, you will get a TRUE award, which means your name will be entered in a raffle to win a bag of Skittles at the end of the phase. So the evening sessions ranged from boring to offensive. Like, there was one about how much do you trust. You had to stand in from or completely trust, not at all, I'm not sure, anywhere in between. You would have to stand there. How much do you trust police officers? How much do you trust your teachers? How much do you trust scientists? How much do you trust politicians? And so on and so forth. So you can't really have a debate because they weren't really interested in cultivating a debate. It was more a sense of, you can say an opinion, you say an opinion that's kind of a rebuttal but kind of not, you say an opinion, and so on and so forth. So that was okay. And then we did like some others that were just a bit boring, and then there was one that I found like really upsetting and really offensive, just like personally and like on a general level, where we were basically given bios of these people. It was like, so our team, like, we were split into threes. Our three was about a woman. She had just left her husband. She had a young child. She lived in Clapham. She was on benefits and was struggling, and she couldn't get a job. So where did you think her life was going to go? And so basically it was about making assumptions, saying this person has a disability, this person is a minority ethnicity, this person has learning difficulties, this person is from a lower socioeconomic background. Don't you think their life is going to suck? That's what it was. So you had to say, oh yeah, this person didn't have much money growing up, so therefore they're going to go to drugs and they're going to join a gang and they're going to die. This person has learning difficulties, so they're never going to get a job and they're never going to be self-sufficient, so they're never going to have a real relationship and they're going to die young. It was like all of this stuff, and it was like, that's just awful. Like, people can come from good backgrounds and be like all around awful people, and people can come from bad backgrounds and have like good lives. And I just like ended up walking out and just like I just did not want to do it, because like I don't understand. And it was about, I think it was supposed to be about having empathy and like about how discrimination is a thing, and like, yeah, we all know it's a thing, thank you kindly, but it was basically having to buy into what it is. And then lots of people were just like spouting like offensive stereotypes here, there and everywhere, just to make it worse. And the mentors weren't doing anything because there were different mentors were running it. And like, I just found the whole thing like offensive. Like, this is a government-run scheme. This is about real people, and the like people present came from these backgrounds, had these sexualities, had these like ethnicities, had these backgrounds. You don't know how much money the people around you have. You don't know where they're from. You don't know what their family's like. So here you are saying, oh yeah, anyone from this background, your life's going to be shit. And here you are from said background. That's really nice to hear. So that's just like for people in general. Like, how awful is that? Like, that's so. Oh, I can't believe they ran that. I can't believe that was an actual activity that they ran. So I was really annoyed about that. And then after every evening session, let's just take a second. I swear. After every evening session, we have wave time, which is an hour of mandatory fun with all 6 teams, with everyone in your wave. Now, our project leader, I think her name was project manager, I'm not going to say name because I don't think I meant to, but she was amazing. She was actually really cool and she was really fun. But even then, the wave time, whenever we heard, oh, it's wave time, oh, do we have to? Because it was like, it was 10 o'clock, you've been doing activities that weren't particularly fun all day, you're really tired, but you're not allowed to go to bed, you're not allowed to, and you just have to do this stupid activity. And don't get me wrong, lots of them ended up being fun. It was just kind of getting to that point, and it wasn't enough fun to be worth staying out till 10:30 in the cold on a field to play a stupid game. And the most fun one was a scavenger hunt, where it was a thing like first team to bring me a bottle of ketchup. Bearing in mind there were 3 bottles of ketchup in the main tent on the other side of the site, so like everyone would sprint to get it. First person to bring me a bottle of shampoo, cap, staff members' lanyard, so you had to nick a lanyard. Like, somebody broke a bench, another guy got a shirt ripped open. Like, it was mental. That was the most fun. That was run by my team leader, who was the best. So yeah, I just it wasn't that bad, it just wasn't good. And it was very clear, like, I very clearly got the vibe, okay, this is government run. This is run by people who are kind of making an effort to discuss diversity and to discuss people from different backgrounds coming together, understanding each other, and leaving with a kind of renewed sense of camaraderie, and like, you are like me and I'm like you. It felt like somebody who had no concept of what it was like to meet people from different backgrounds to them had designed an activity about having better feelings about meeting people with different backgrounds to you. That's what it felt like. So, yeah, I mean, the aim of it isn't necessarily bad, it was just poorly presented, and that wasn't due to the mentors that did it, it was due to what was in the booklet that they gave us, because they were following a booklet that had been like printed out all the stuff we have to do. It wasn't good. It was just like, whoever wrote that book, pick a new career, please, and give it to somebody who actually has experienced what they're trying to teach about and is actually valuable to kids. Yeah? Okay? Cool. Thanks. So, moving on to... and by the way, I do have a disclaimer at the end of this that kind of... even though I'm being kind of negative now, I'm talking about everything that sucks because there was a lot. There's kind of more to it than that. It's not that simple. So, I think it'll be in the description. So, if you don't want to watch the ins and outs of all of it, then just skip to that and watch that little bit because that's kind of the most important part, I think. Anyway, so phase 2, where you stay in university halls. You don't actually do any activities to do with university, so if you're trying to use this to work out whether university's for you, whether you'd like it, it's going to be completely useless to you because you don't actually do anything at a university. In fact, we stayed in university halls that were 40 minutes away of where we did our daily activities because last year they had stayed in accommodation that was near to the place where we did the workshop, and it was just really disgusting. It was 9 people to 2 bathrooms in these really cramped, awful rooms. Like, everybody hated it. Several people quit because it was that bad. The accommodation was that bad. Like, it was just all around a bit horrific. So that's just, yeah. Whereas the halls that were 40 minutes away were really nice. So they were really nice halls. They were nice. So we said there. However, you had to cook in the kitchen. There was nothing in the kitchen. They didn't tell us there will be nothing in the kitchen. You will have no mugs, no plates, no cutlery, no bowls. You will have nothing. You will be given the food you need, but you will have nothing to cook with. You won't have washing up liquid. You won't have any of these things. If we'd been told that, we would have brought it, but we weren't told we wouldn't have anything, so none of us brought it, so we were all just kind of standing there like, oh, this is great. Like, okay, we need to make dinner. We have nothing to cook with, or nothing to cut up vegetables or whatever. So, and also, the accommodation was very weirdly organised. You travel each day to do a workshop, and we actually did, 4, technically 3 workshops. The first one was public speaking, and it was so boring. It wasn't good, like, at all. It wasn't even about, like, technically, how do you speak well? How does your voice work? It wasn't about that. It wasn't about how do you write a good speech. It wasn't about that. I don't even know what it was about, but it lasted 6 hours. We just did, it was like weird games and weird activities that kind of were supposed to be building up to something, but never actually did. So that was great. Second one was called visual storytelling and was pathetic. It was a bit pathetic. Like, I love stories, I love storytelling, I love to read, I love watching media, I love all of these things. I adore stories, and yet I hated this workshop. So what does that tell you? And it was supposed to be about making stories, about being creative, and we were like, oh, me and this other girl were like, oh, so is it going to be like about like dance or like physical theatre or that kind of stuff? And they were like, no. You had to look at pictures and say, how does this picture make you feel? And they weren't like, it wasn't art, they were photographs. So, and they were like stock image photographs. So that was not good, that wasn't good. And then the next day, we met our partner. You meet your community partner that you're going to be working with on the 3rd phase, and let's just not talk about that. We'll talk about that when I talk about phase 3. And then the final day was business enterprise, where you would, about your community partner, you would imagine if you had unlimited funds, what would you do for them? What would you do for their service users? And just like come up with something as ridiculous as possible and then present it to the rest of the group, which lasted a long time. And so in every evening you had to make your own food. And back on the tent phase, phase 1, you had found out who you were going to tent with, and you had sat down and picked a meal for each day and picked what other food you wanted to order. If you wanted loads of bread, if you wanted like juice, water, if you wanted ham, corn chicken, if you wanted apples, if you wanted cereal, milk, all of these things, you had to tick it off, and you had £60 to spend. Originally they said the people who spend the least money will get a prize, and so every team, I think, started off being like, okay, let's spend as little as possible, and then we were like, you know what, no, this isn't our money, we want to have fun on the next phase. So everybody spent all £60, so no one won the prize. So, because people like just bought, one team spent £20 on cookies. They spent a third of their money on cookies. Like, props to that team, seriously. Like, we were a bit more sensible, but we didn't actually even get all of our stuff in the end because the people they bought the food from didn't have enough stock of like everything. So, but then every evening you had another evening session, except this time it was in a park. And then after that you had wave time, which again was exactly what it sounds like. It wasn't good. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't good. And then the last day was the best because we did a talent show, which my team won because we are the best. I told you we're the best. Anyway, and then the last day you do a showcase. So you put together a team presentation of the first 2 phases and everything you learnt from them, and then you present it to your friends and family. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. It was fun in some ways, but it was also a bit... everything on NCS was a bit... But the final phase, phase 3, is called social action, and there are like 2 parts to it. And there's not always a break in between, but I had a break in between. So the first phase is called, like 3A is called design, 3B is called action. So in phase 2, you meet your community partner, and you find out who they are, and they give you like an objective to complete. And your job is to raise awareness of them and complete the event that they ask you to do. So if you have a good community partner, you'll probably have a good time, you'll probably get some good things out of it. However, if you don't have a good community partner, you won't. So our team got the worst community partner, where every other team, they were asked to put on, like 2 teams were asked to put on like discos and parties at retirement homes. Another team put on like an event for kids. Our event was to buy a board. We weren't given an event because, or I don't want to actually name the charity because they're not a bad charity, they just weren't right for NCS, and whoever recruited them, quit your job, choose a new profession. Yeah, so we weren't asked to put on an event. We weren't asked to we weren't given enough, we couldn't put on an event. We asked around at libraries and we weren't allowed to because you had to pay money to, and NCS wasn't willing to pay the money. So what we had to do was buy a board. So on volunteer day, which is when you carry out your event, we ended up making gifts for the volunteers at our charity to like make them feel appreciated and stuff, which was fine, but it wasn't an event. We weren't actually working with people. We weren't seeing people who benefited from this charity and learning something from them, which, like, you know, it wasn't the point. So that made it all a bit rubbish as well. And so on the second to last day, you also have a campaign day, which is where you go out onto the high street and you try and give out flyers and talk to people, which if you've ever been on a high street, you know, people avoid those people like the plague because they don't want to be talked to. That's not an effective way to get out information. If they wanted to get with the times, they should do like social media awareness or something. Like, I don't know, just like something online. People don't want to talk to you on the street. People will never want to talk to you on the street. And what made this worse was that we weren't allowed to store, because a stall, like, is in like an actual desk people could come to, because you have to get a license. MCS would have had to pay money to get a store, and apparently they used to do that, but they stopped doing that because they didn't want to pay for it, which was like fair enough, I guess, but they should just scrap the high street thing and replace it with something else. Still build awareness for a charity, because that's still a good thing to do. It just wasn't effective. And so each day you would have minimum objectives to complete. You would have set tasks that you had to do within your team, and those would take you from about 10 till maybe 2 with an hour and a half lunch break in between. And so you're not actually technically allowed to leave until 6, but we never left but we were allowed to go at 5:30 because the overall leader of that phase wanted to go home. So we, from 2 to 5:30 basically, we had to wait. We didn't have anything to do. Occasionally they made us play dodgy games, but we had to wait. So that's like, if somebody who likes to be doing things and I sign up to NCS to do things, that's a bit annoying. Like, I could be at home, like, doing my summer projects that I haven't done because I'm an idiot and I need to do those and stuff like that. But, so, basically, bring stuff to do. Like, I brought in maths work to do, my friend brought in her ukulele, like, bring stuff to do, and you can and will have opportunities to do it. Like, I really recommend that, because otherwise you're going to be bored out of your skull, unless you're someone who just likes to sit and do nothing, in which case you'll enjoy that. And something that I like to say to you is, you will get out what you put into it. And while, like, in a sense of life, that is true, with this, you can put everything into it, and you will not get that much out of it. Because, like, obviously, I don't know what it was like to have a proper event where you actually got to meet real people who were benefiting from something that you were doing, and be like, oh, okay, this is really cool. We didn't get that, so maybe that would have been better. I don't know. But you're only going to get so much out of it, so it doesn't matter how much you put in beyond a certain point, there's no more you're going to get. So obviously participate in every activity, be a part of this team, talk to people, like, do all of those things, do everything that they give you a chance to do, but you're only going to have so much out of it. And so sometimes with all that waiting, they did wave times, that was boring. Cut this bit out. And then the last day is a bit awkward because they don't really do a final goodbye because graduation is like a month after NCS ends. So you don't have a proper final goodbye. You just have a bit of a, oh, you done now? Okay, cool, bye. And because the people on our wave were a bit rubbish. Like, people were messing around with speakers. This one team thought it was really funny to sing Happy Birthday on repeat, even though it was nobody's birthday. I swear, that team. So that kind of ruined it a bit, because it could have been really fun, because we did have a good time, and, like, we might not see any of these people again, apart from graduation. So that could have been really good, and they made it suck. So that's not, like, a overall thing for NCS, but it just kind of felt like that. People were done, they had finished, they wanted to go home, they didn't care about the final True Awards, because those were, like, the True Awards were just a waste of time, I swear, because they're, like, because everyone on your team has to get a True Award at least once. So no one's really interested, and it's just not a very good use of time. So that just wasn't very good. And so this is the final section now. This is like the bit where I've called it my disclaimer, so let's keep going with that and say it's my disclaimer. Overall, despite everything that I've said, NCS is not a bad programme. It stands for a really good thing, and I think what it represents is like a community project is really cool, and it's really worth something. And NCS does give you an opportunity to meet people from your borough that you otherwise wouldn't have met. Because, like, I don't want to say where I'm from, you meet people from schools that you've never heard of, and you talk to them about that. You're in, because like, I did it at the end of year 11, before results day, you're all in a bit of the same limbo because you're waiting on results, and you're all different people who are expecting different results. There are people who don't care at all about results, which is never new. People that really care, people that are trying to go to grammar schools, there are people that don't like grammar schools. There are all of these things, and you do get to meet people, and if it's done properly, you do get to have an impact on some real people, on some real ass people, which is like really cool as a thing. And you're kind of meant to be having an impact on a local community. And I'm not sure if it's just because of the community I was in, where if, like, you know, in real life it's an interesting community, or just in general, because we don't really have a sense of community, like, okay, because it's all kind of building on this ridiculous 1960s sense of community that you're meant to have in your area, that just doesn't exist. So it feels like it's all kind of falling to the floor. And the aim of NCS is a good thing. It's good that young people who wouldn't otherwise get the opportunity to are going and doing adventure stuff. They're doing, like, PGL, Kingswood style stuff that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. Like, I would have never have been climbing if I hadn't gone there, and I loved it. You kind of got to experience being a broke student with nothing in your kitchen trying to make food, which was fun, but it's not really a reflection of uni life. And meeting people your age from your area, even though they're not strictly from your area, they're still like around you. It's still close enough that you all have the same kind of vibe. You all have the similar experiences because you're from similar areas that are close to each other. You kind of already have that existing thing, so it is valuable in that sense. I just think if you're going to do it, you should know what it's going to be, and you should know that you're going to have so much free time. There's going to be a lot of pointless mandatory events that you have to do, and I think I think the NCS program needs redesigning and updating, because some parts of it just don't work. Like the evening activities have the potential to be good. I understand it's really, really hard to create activities like that resonate with large numbers of people, that will be interesting, that won't be boring, and all of that stuff. Like, I understand how hard that is, I really do, but I think it really needs to be done. Like, I saw an article recently that came out while I was doing NCS actually, saying that NCS used to be amazing, but now funding to it has been cut so much that it either needs to be refunded or it needs to be scrapped. And while that's a bit harsh, I get what they're trying to say, because apparently it used to be so much better, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even last year. It used to be a much better experience than what it is now. So overall, I think NCS is not a bad thing. What it stands for is not a bad thing. And it is possible to have a good time even when everything is a bit crap. So yeah, that's kind of what I think. I would still recommend it to people. I would just recommend it to them saying, make sure you bring your own food for the first phase. Make sure, because we went during the heat wave and we were freezing, make sure you bring warm stuff. On the second phase, make sure you bring your own cutlery, because you will need it. Bring stuff like salt and sugar and flour, because they do not provide that. And you might want to make pancakes, because you will be up late and up early and you will not have enough food to eat. On the last phase, bring stuff to do. If you bring fun stuff, like you have your phone, but that's not enough. Like, if you have summer projects and like you're like me and a little bit sad, then bring that to do. Like, you need stuff to do that's outside of the activities. And I think particularly if the program gets revamped, then absolutely, definitely do it. But yeah, so overall, I do recommend it. However, take it with a good handful of salt. Be prepared for it to not be quite what you're expecting. And I hope that in a couple years, NCS will still be running, but it will all around be a better experience, because it'll be better thought out, and they won't be trying to make it bigger than they have funds to make it. So yeah, those are my thoughts. That was my kind of whole NCS experience. Tell me in the comments if you've done NCS, if you're thinking about it, what do you think, and if you have any book or film recommendations or stuff that you want me to review. If there's any other videos you want me to do. If you found this interesting, subscribe, because I do content now, apparently, and stuff, so you can have a hand in that, and thumbs up. So have fun, do whatever you want, and I will see you in the next one.